My story. Ah, great. Just what I need, he muttered, his brow furrowing. A distress signal flickered across the screen, its coordinates pinpointing a location far off the usual trade routes, a desolate patch of space. Looks abandoned, he said to himself, but something tugged at his instincts. He adjusted the course, acceleration pushing him deeper into the unknown. Let's see what kind of trouble this signals. As he narrowed in on the coordinates, the visuals from his ship's sensors revealed a derelict Zilfian cruiser, its hull torn and battered. Ethan's heart raced. He'd heard stories about the Zilfian League, their intricate technology, their deep-rooted distrust of humans. Yet here it was, an opportunity to gather intel and maybe make a name for himself in the interstellar community. All right, let's check it out, he decided, maneuvering his ship alongside the cruiser. As he docked, he slipped into his environment suit, the quiet hum of the oxygen system reminding him of the dangers ahead. Stepping onto the vessel, he felt an immediate chill. The corridors were dark, illuminated only by flickering emergency lights. Silence reigned except for the soft hissing of hydraulics and the occasional groan of metal. Hello? Is anyone here? He called out, his voice echoing down the corridor. No response. He moved cautiously, scanning for life signs. Suddenly, a faint sound made him freeze. It was a whimper, distress. Holding his breath, he followed the sound, pushing through debris until he reached the engineering bay. There, amidst the wreckage, lay a Zilfian, a female, her vivid blue skin contrasting sharply with the metallic surroundings. She was trapped under a twisted beam, her alien features contorted in pain. Oh no, hold on. Ethan rushed to her side, kneeling to assess the situation. I can help you. Her eyes widened, a mix of fear and anger swimming within their depths. Stay back, human. You'll only make things worse. I'm not here to hurt you. Just let me work, he replied, hands raised to show he meant no harm. What's your name? Mira, she spat, her voice clipped. And I don't need your help. I'll manage. Right, managing quite well, I see, he said, glancing at the beam pinning her. I'll lift it. You just get free, okay? With trepidation, Mira nodded, her distrust palpable. Ethan braced himself, positioning his hands under the beam. On 3, he said, sweat beading on his forehead. 1, 2, 3. He hoisted the beam upward, straining against its weight, and she wriggled out from underneath. Just as he felt the pressure ease, he stumbled back, falling onto the ground with a heavy thud. Are you all right? She asked, her tone a blend of genuine concern and lingering skepticism. Do I look all right? He chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. A bit bruised, but I've had worse. Ignoring his humor, she analyzed him with her piercing gaze. Why did you help me? Humans are nothing but opportunists. Maybe I'm just a softie? Ethan shrugged, trying to keep his expression light. Or maybe I wasn't keen on letting anyone die today. Can't afford the bad press. Myra's lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but not a frown either. You should consider your safety. Zilfians don't look kindly on human interference. Trust me, I've heard the reputation, he replied, standing up and brushing off his suit. But I couldn't just leave you here. Why? She pressed, a hint of intrigue flaring beneath her skepticism. You risk everything to help a stranger? Because it's the right thing to do, he countered. Let's not make this more complicated than it needs to be. After a beat of silence, Mira relented. Fine, but know this. I owe you nothing. Perfectly fine by me, he replied, amping up his charm. Let's get you to safety first. Any idea how to get this hulk back into working order? Mira shook her head, then hesitantly gestured toward a console. We can restore power, but I need access to the mainframe. It's located in the command center. Lead the way. They started moving down the corridor, the eerie silence interrupted only by the occasional hiss and pop of malfunctioning systems. Why are you here, really? You aren't an official envoy, are you? She interrogated, glancing over her shoulder. Just a pilot looking for a good story, Ethan admitted with a lopsided grin. You know us humans, always chasing the next thrill. You're reckless, she replied, a slight frown on her alien features. Yeah, it's kind of my thing, he countered with a playful smirk. A little reckless adventure keeps life interesting, don't you think? Despite herself, a small laugh escaped Mira. Interesting is one way to put it. When they finally reached the command center, Ethan took a moment to bask in the sight, the sprawling consoles, the holographic displays flickering to life. Mira moved with purpose, her fingers dancing across the surfaces as she began accessing systems. Looks like I'm not the only one who can work some magic around here, Ethan remarked, stepping closer to watch her. Just because I'm an alien doesn't mean I'm incompetent, she replied, cutting him a glance. Who said otherwise? I've seen you handle yourself just fine, he praised, taking a deep breath as the room came alive with power. What's next? Mira paused, her eyes narrowing in thought. We need to send a distress signal. But I won't talk to you unless you promise not to betray me. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Hardly a betrayal if I'm saving you, right? If you say so, she replied, skepticism still clouding her gaze. All right then. I promise, he said, attempting to sound sincere. The unexpected weight of the moment settled around them. Mira looked at him, and for the first time, he saw a glimmer of uncertainty behind the mistrust. Let's see if you keep your word, human. As the two of them worked together, navigating the blend of technology and earnestness, the barrier of distrust began to crack. Unbeknownst to them, the universe was shifting, foreseeing a bond that would challenge the very fabric of their worlds. Chapter 2: The Rescue. Ethan's heart raced as he watched Mira work. Her slender fingers danced across the screens, the glow of the holographic displays reflecting in her striking blue eyes. He leaned over, trying to catch a glimpse of the data scrolling rapidly before her. What's it saying? He asked, curiosity bubbling up. Mira glanced at him with an arch of her brow. This system is heavily damaged. It'll take time to integrate the external communications module. She then shifted back to the console, her expression serious. Time is one thing we don't have a lot of, Ethan pointed out, scanning the room for anything useful. Any other way to amplify the signal? Maybe. If we can reroute power from the life support systems. She trailed off, her fingers tapping thoughtfully against the console. It's risky. You might lose your air supply if something goes wrong. Air is overrated, he joked, trying to shake the somber mood. A little adrenaline rush never hurt anyone. She shot him a side eye. It might when you're unconscious. Fair point. But I'm not planning to go unconscious, he replied, moving beside her as he started examining the panels. What's the next step? You have to help me access the main power grid, she said, her tone softening slightly. I can guide you through the bypass. Gotcha. Just tell me what to do, Ethan replied, determination in his voice. Mira inhaled, her brow furrowing in concentration. We'll need to disable the safety locks. Start with that terminal. She pointed to a console displaying a series of colored buttons. Ethan moved over, studying the interface. Okay, let's see how this works. He pressed the first button and the screen lit up with error warnings. Whoops. Wrong door. Mira snorted, a sound rather unexpected. You sure you can handle this? Hey, I'm getting there, he responded defensively. Just warming up, right? With a playful smile, Mira guided him through the various steps. Press that one. No, the red one, not the blue. The one you're about to push is a system restart. Good to know I should steer clear of the pretty colors, he said, chuckling softly. That might actually be the root of many human issues, she shot back, allowing some of her walls to lower. Finally, after a bit of back and forth, the systems began to cooperate. The holographic interface shifted from warnings to stable readings. Ethan felt a sense of accomplishment. I think we did it. Myra's expression shifted to something resembling respect. You actually did a decent job there. Thanks. Coming from you, that's a compliment. He grinned, but it faltered as the realization dawned on him. Now what? Now we reroute the power? Her eyes flickered back to the main panels, buzzing with activity. Take the wires from the life support and connect them to the comm array, she instructed, pointing at a messy tangle of cables. Sounds easy enough. He knelt, untangling the cables, noting the strange, almost organic feel of the Zilphian technology. This is interesting stuff. How does it work? It's based partially on organic components, Mira explained. Zilphians believe technology should mimic nature's efficiency. Resilience through adaptability. Good philosophy, Ethan admitted, focused on the work. You could teach a class for humans. Not sure they would listen, she replied, a quiet laugh escaping her lips. It felt strange, this easy banter, like something new and untainted blossoming between them. Then they're missing out. Ethan continued working, feeling the atmosphere shift. What do you enjoy? Other than being stuck on your broken ship, I mean. Mira paused, looking thoughtful. I enjoy exploring new worlds, meeting different beings, learning about their cultures. Sounds refreshing. A far cry from brazen pilots like me, he said, a note of self-deprecation in his voice. Not all pilots are reckless, she replied, her gaze softening momentarily. Some are strategic. Touché. So, what would you consider strategic? Ethan asked, intrigued. Knowing when to trust and when to be cautious, she replied, a hint of depth coloring her words. Wise advice, he acknowledged, continuing to rearrange the wires. I guess I can be a bit reckless at times. Just a bit, she quipped, a teasing edge bringing a smile to her lips. Their laughter filled the room, breaking through barriers that had once felt impenetrable. The tone shifted, the air electric with a new understanding. Just as they finished connecting the wires, an alarm blared suddenly, pulling them from their moment. What now? Ethan said, his heart racing again. Those alarms mean we're in an imminent risk zone, Mira replied, her expression shifting to one of urgency. They must be looking for survivors. Great, just what we needed. Ethan felt a rush of adrenaline. What do we do? We need to secure the command center. They can't find us here, she instructed, moving to the door and securing it. We might be able to hide the ship's signal until we can reroute the comm system. Got it. What can I do? Ethan asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Help me barricade the entrance, she ordered, grabbing some debris from the ground and moving it toward the door. On it, he replied, rushing to assist her. Together, they swiftly piled pieces of metal and wreckage against the door, their movements synchronized from the urgency of the moment. As they worked, a nearby console flickered back to life, displaying a map of the cruiser. If we can access the cargo hold, we may find supplies to help us, Mira said, breathless. Sounds like a plan. Show me the way, Ethan urged. Mira nodded, the flicker of fear in her eyes replaced with determination. Together, they made their way through the ship, guiding each other down dimly lit corridors. Each turn felt more alive, each second bringing them closer to something neither could fully comprehend. Should we talk about this when it's over? Ethan stammered as they reached the cargo hold, unsure how to voice what was developing between them. You mean the fact you saved my life? She asked, a hint of a smirk in her tone. No, I mean, he stumbled over his words. I mean about us. Trust. All of this. Let's just focus on surviving right now, she interrupted, any softness evaporating. But there was a subtle understanding that lingered between them. Agreed, Ethan replied, squaring his shoulders. Survival first, then we can figure everything else out. They entered the cargo hold, glancing around at the shelves lined with supplies. Food, tools, medical supplies. We hit the jackpot, Ethan declared, relief flooding through him. Grab everything you can find. We might be here for a while, Mira instructed, focusing on a nearby container. As he began collecting supplies, he couldn't shake the feeling that, even in this dangerous situation, something monumental was starting to unfold. It was more than a simple chance encounter. It was the forging of an unexpected alliance amidst a world built on mistrust. And as they stood together, a bond quietly formed in the shadows of the universe. Chapter 3, Building Trust. Ethan and Mira stood in the cargo hold, surrounded by crates filled with supplies. The air felt charged, a mix of urgency and an unexpected camaraderie. He glanced at Mira as she rifled through a nearby container, her movements focused and sure. All right, what do we have? He asked, kneeling beside her and pulling open a crate. Inside lay energy packs and nutrient bars. Looks like we're stocked for a while. Mira pulled out a medical kit, her eyes scanning the contents. Good, she said, her tone brisk. We'll need these. Injuries tend to add up in emergencies. Thanks for the heads up, Dr. Zilfian, he teased, nudging her playfully. A hint of a smile broke across her face. I don't specialize in medicine, but I've had my share of scrapes. Better to have a backup plan, Ethan replied, rising to his feet and adjusting the supplies in his arms. So, what's next? Next, we find a way to secure our position, she said, eyes narrowing as she considered their options. We can't stay here indefinitely. We need to figure out what those life signs were and if they pose any risk. Got it. So we do some recon? He proposed, a thrill building in his chest. Yes, but we must be cautious, she cautioned, gripping a tool as she stepped back toward the door. We don't know the full extent of what we're dealing with. Ethan nodded, feeling the gravity of her words. Let's make sure we have a way to communicate, then. She pointed toward a signal amplifier in the corner, buried beneath a pile of assorted gear. If you can bring that over here, I think we can revive the comms system enough to stay in contact. On it, he said, rushing over to unearth the component. He could feel the pulse of adrenaline as they worked together toward a common goal. When he finally dragged the amplifier into the open, they both examined it with curiosity. So, how does this work? Ethan asked, glancing at her. Mira flipped it around in her hands, her fingers dancing in a manner that suggested familiarity. This should let us boost the signal range, but we'll have to connect it to the main communications array and ensure it's powered. Sweet? He grinned, feeling the familiar rush of team effort. I'm ready. What's first? She directed him with firm confidence. Start routing the wires to the power source over there. Her finger indicated a panel across the room, still flickering with remnants of light from the ship's failure. All right, let's get this show on the road. He hopped to the panel and began opening it. Careful with that, she cautioned, but her voice was laced with amusement as he fumbled. You really should watch where you're putting your hands. He paused, looking back at her with a grin. Hey, I'm learning. Besides, you've got the brains. I'm just the brawn. Let's not exaggerate. She smirked, shaking her head. I wouldn't categorize you as either. Oh, please, he laughed. Just wait until I transform into a serious threat with these tools. Mira rolled her eyes but couldn't hide the smile creeping back. Together, they made progress, connecting wires and securing modules. She occasionally glanced at him as if gauging his level of competence and trustworthiness. So, tell me about your travels, Ethan said, breaking the stillness that had crept in. Have you seen any humans acting less, human? Less human, she repeated, a trace of confusion in her voice. You mean less reckless? Exactly. Less reckless, more diplomatic, he elaborated, his tone light. Mira crossed her arms. Being a diplomat is a challenging task. There are often barriers that arise from misunderstanding and prejudice. It's not easy for either side. Yeah, but Ethan replied, reflecting on his own encounters with various civilizations. Most people are just trying to get by, right? We all have something in common, even if we're from different worlds. Perhaps, she conceded with a thoughtful expression. But the challenge lies in overcoming assumptions before getting to that point. Fair enough. It's easy to jump to conclusions, especially when you're afraid, he said, taking a moment to connect cables while he contemplated her words. She watched him work, a flicker of something unnameable passing through her eyes. So, do you jump to conclusions often? Not really. I like to gather all the facts first, he admitted, pulling a wire taut. Now, if you ask me if I've ever been reckless, well, that's another story altogether. Care to elaborate? Mira prompted, tilting her head with curiosity. He chuckled, recalling one of his more foolish escapades. Once I decided to sneak onto a military cruiser to gather intel about their weaponry. Let's just say it didn't go as planned. I still don't know how I escaped. What happened? She pressed, her intrigue evident. Let's just say that I've never run so fast in my life. I ended up piloting my escape pod directly into an asteroid field, Ethan recounted, shaking his head at the memory. Not my best moment. I gather you ended up okay, she said, a hint of amusement dancing in her eyes. Alive, yes. But I learned that making strategic plans is typically more beneficial than flying by the seat of your pants. Such wisdom from a reckless pilot. She smiled and the atmosphere lightened, the previous tension ebbing away. Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life, breaking their conversation. This is Commander Thal of the Zilphian Fleet. We have detected life signs aboard the cruiser. Sector 33, please respond. Ethan's heart raced. That must be the life signs we detected before, he whispered to Mira, both of them frozen in place. Think they're friendly? She asked, her voice a mix of caution and worry. Hard to say, but we'd better respond before they come looking, Ethan said, moving back to the communications console. What do you suggest? Mira's brow furrowed. We could identify ourselves and explain our situation. Still, they could react unpredictably. Guess we don't really have a choice, Ethan decided, glancing back at her. But I could use your insight on how to present this. Fine, she said, taking a deep breath. Let's go with honesty. We'll just need to tread lightly. He activated the... Please hear us out. We're not the ones you want to worry about. We're stranded and need assistance. There was a pause, the silence heavy between them. Finally, the commander replied. Prove your claim, or we will proceed accordingly. I guess we're really in it now, Ethan said, glancing at Mira with wide eyes. Let me handle this, she said firmly, stepping up to the console. Commander, if you send a shuttle to our coordinates, I can show you that we're indeed here for no harmful intentions. And if we don't trust you? Thal challenged. Then you have every right to question it, Mira delivered, determination in her voice. But no, we are in dire need. Trust can be forged, Commander. I promise that we mean no harm. After agonizing seconds, the commander replied, we will send a shuttle. Stand by for further instructions. Thal out. Ethan exhaled loudly, tension releasing in a rush. Nice job. Just playing my part, she replied, a hint of pride in her tone. Let's see where this leads, he said, feeling the growing confidence of their partnership as they prepared to face whatever lay ahead. Trust was still an uncharted territory, but in that moment they stood together ready to navigate the unknown. Chapter 4, The Revelation. Ethan and Mira waited anxiously in the command center, their hearts racing with uncertainty. The screen flickered with the fading remnants of energy, but the shuttle from the Zilphian fleet was on its way. Time felt suspended, each second filled with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Do you think they'll actually come? Ethan asked, glancing over at Mira, who sat cross-legged on a table, her gaze fixed on the viewports. They have no choice. They're bound by protocol to investigate life signs, she replied, crossing her arms. But there's no telling how they'll react to us. True, he said, raking a hand through his hair. We need to be ready for anything. If they come in hostile. She interrupted him, her voice firm. We'll show them we mean no harm. It's what we have to do. A tinge of admiration crept into his words. You really believe that, don't you? That trust can overcome fear. I have to, she said, finally meeting his gaze. It's the only way to create any sort of understanding. Noticing the seriousness in her expression, Ethan felt compelled to change the subject. So, if your people find out I saved your life, will they throw me a parade or throw me in prison? Mira chuckled, shaking her head. I doubt they'll throw a parade for a human, but maybe a stern talking to. Guess I'll settle for that, he replied, smirking. Let's just hope it doesn't devolve into intergalactic incidents. Before Mira could respond, a sudden thud resounded from the ship's outer hull. Both of them exchanged glances, tension creeping back in. That's got to be the shuttle, Ethan breathed, moving to the viewport. Peering out, he could see the outline of a sleek vessel hovering just outside. Here we go. He turned back to Mira, who was now standing, a mix of determination and trepidation in her posture. Remember, calm and collected, she reminded him, her voice steady. Right? He nodded, taking a deep breath. Let's do this. The shuttle's hatch slid open with a hiss, and a Zilphian stepped out, his tall frame accentuated by an imposing uniform. Ethan could see an array of weapons holstered at his side. The Zilphian's skin glimmered under the artificial lights, and his eyes scanned the room like a predator assessing its territory. Commander Thal. The Zilphian introduced himself, his voice deep and unwavering. You are the humans I've been informed about. Ethan nodded, stepping forward. Yes, I'm Ethan Reed, and this is Mira. We're stranded? I'm aware. Thal interrupted, his tone clipped. You need to explain your presence here immediately. Mira shifted beside Ethan, her demeanor cool. We found ourselves drawn to the signal of this derelict cruiser. It was purely an act of survival. An act of survival? Thal echoed, skepticism evident in his eyes. And I suppose you have no other intentions? None, I assure you, Mira replied, her voice unwavering. We are here because we had no choice. Is that so? Thal regarded her closely, his gaze penetrating. It's difficult to ascertain if you're lying or simply misguided. Misguided? Ethan felt a swell of frustration. You think we planned to end up here? We barely made it through the storm, and we were just trying to help. Easy, Mira whispered, placing a hand on Ethan's arm. Let me handle this. Here we go, Thal said with a slight smile, as if amused by their banter. Then please continue. Mira and I were investigating the distress signal, Ethan said, keeping his tone steady. We helped each other. I'm not here to sabotage your people. Honestly, I just want to get back home. Thal's expression softened for a brief moment, but it quickly returned to its original sternness. If what you say is true, then show me the signal that led you here. Prove it. Signal? Mira asked, her eyes wide with realization. We managed to access some data logs. They should still be on the communications console. Ethan stepped aside, allowing Mira to take charge once again. She walked over to the terminal and began typing inputs, her fingers flying over the keys. Thal stood close, his expression scrutinizing. And why should I trust you? Because you don't have any other option, Ethan replied, crossing his arms. We don't mean to be a burden. Just give us a chance to explain. As Mira navigated the system, a series of holographic displays illuminated the room. Ethan watched as the signal's trajectory unfolded across the screens. There she pointed, her voice gaining steadiness. That's the signal we intercepted. It originated nearby, but it seemed weak. Thal leaned closer, examining the data. It's consistent with emergency distress calls. Quite unusual for a Zilphian cruiser. Exactly, Ethan interjected. That's why we came. Something must have happened aboard that ship, and we're trying to figure out what. Possible, Thal replied, his gaze still fixed on the readings. But we'll need to verify your claims. Verify? You mean like run scans? Ethan asked, his frustration bubbling again. You really think we'd go through all this just to pull a fast one on you? At that moment, Mira shot him a warning look, and he took a deep breath to calm himself. Sorry, just trying to help. Thal lowered his gaze and said, We'll perform scans on this ship too, and if you cooperate, I may allow you to explain what else you've uncovered. Ethan exchanged a look with Mira, realizing that they needed to showcase their mutual trust in front of the Zilphian commander. Fine, he said, nodding slowly. Just know that we're doing this out of necessity. Good choice, Thal responded, lifting a device that resembled a scanner. Now, I need you to gather any additional information you can find from the cruiser. Got it, Mira said, her tone decisive. I'll help Ethan. Together, we'll find out what happened here. Well then, I suggest you move quickly, Thal urged, gesturing for them to proceed. I can't guarantee how much patience my people will have. Ethan moved beside Mira, feeling the weight of the situation sink in. You think he trusts us? Mira looked at him, her expression contemplative. Trust can come slowly, especially in crises like this. But we'll have to prove ourselves. Right, he replied, feeling the nerves creeping back in. Let's hope we can untangle this mess before it gets worse. As they made their way toward the engineering bay once more, Ethan couldn't shake the unease creeping into his thoughts. Something about Thal's demeanor lingered in his mind. Are you worried? Mira asked suddenly, catching him off guard. Just contemplating what kind of trouble we might be in, Ethan admitted, glancing back at her. I mean, who knows what actually happened here? We could be walking into something huge. She looked thoughtful for a moment. We can't think like that. We need to focus on what we can control, finding answers and getting out of here. Right, answers. Let's start with those logs, Ethan agreed as they approached the console. Mira began analyzing the systems again while Ethan kept an eye on the entrance. You know, I can't believe we're actually working together like this, he said, breaking the silence again. Yeah, kind of surreal, isn't it? She replied, shaking her head with a soft smile. It's like some cosmic joke, he muttered, then grinned. Two people from completely different worlds teaming up to save each other. Maybe it's not such a joke, she said, glancing at him thoughtfully. Maybe it's something more. As they continued to work, Ethan felt the growing sense of trust between them deepening. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together even if the universe had stacked the odds against them. Chapter 5, A New Beginning. Ethan and Mira stood in the dimly lit engineering bay, the faint glow of consoles illuminating the remnants of the ship's systems. A holographic display projected various data streams around them, a chaotic array of information swirling like a storm. All right, we need to see if we can recover any logs that detail the last moments of this cruiser, Mira said, her voice steady and focused. Got it. I'll search for anything that looks like a log file, Ethan responded, moving to another console. Just, point me in the right direction. Mira moved beside him, switching screens. Here, try accessing this mainframe, she instructed, her finger hovering over the controls. It should lead you to the records. All right, let's dig in. Ethan began typing, searching through the layers of code. These systems are ancient, but I think I can make sense of it. I'll handle the AUX systems on my end, Mira said, her focus sharpening. Keep an eye out for any unusual patterns. As they worked, Ethan felt the tension and urgency lift slightly. You know, he said, glancing at her. For someone trained to distrust humans, you're pretty quick to trust me. Mira paused, looking back at him. I'm still not fully convinced, but I can see you're different. Different how? Ethan pressed, intrigued. You act more like a person instead of adhering to the stereotypes, she replied, a hint of a smile dancing on her lips. And that's refreshing. Wow, am I really that special? He laughed, feeling a strange flutter in his chest. Let's not get carried away, she countered, albeit with a playful tone. But you're certainly not the worst human. High praise coming from you, he grinned, turning back to the console. I'll take what I can get. Time passed in a flurry of clicks and beeps as they delved deeper. After several minutes, a warning flashed across Ethan's screen. Mira, I think we hit a snag. This file is encrypted. Let me help. She leaned closer and he could smell the faint tang of her skin. A spark of something electric hung in the air. Might take some time, but let me try to bypass the encryption protocols. Can I do anything? Ethan asked, slightly anxious. Just keep the system alive by monitoring the power levels, she instructed. If they start to drop, we might lose access altogether. If that's the plan, I'm all in, Ethan replied, scanning the power meter. It's stable for now. Mira began typing rapidly, her focus narrowing in on the screen. The silence between them felt charged with energy, the kind that comes with heightened awareness. What's it like being a Zilfian? Ethan asked, trying to draw her attention away from the task momentarily. Do you ever miss anything? She hesitated, then turned to him, reflecting on his question. I often miss the opportunity to trust. In our culture, emotions are often viewed as weaknesses. Sounds lonely, he said, sympathy filling his voice. It can be, she admitted, her expression softening. But I've learned to embrace my experiences even when they're fraught with chaos. Ethan couldn't help but admire her. You're doing pretty well for someone who's supposed to find vulnerability unacceptable, he teased gently. A small smile crept onto her face. Maybe you're not so bad after all, Ethan read. Just don't spread that rumor around, he shot back with a grin. Suddenly, the display flickered and Myra's expression changed to concentration. Wait, I think I'm onto something. Lines of code rushed by as she navigated deeper into the system. Ethan leaned in closer, trying to catch a glimpse. What did you find? An audio file, Mira breathed, her fingers flying across the keyboard. If I can decrypt it, we might get insight into what happened here. Great. Let's hear it. His excitement bubbled over, a shared adrenaline igniting between them. After a few tense moments, the audio began to play. This is Captain Yelra of the Zilfian cruiser Aelvin. We are under attack. Requesting immediate attack. Ethan muttered, glancing at Mira, who looked equally startled. Play it back, she instructed, urgency in her voice. Ethan rewound the file and hit play again. Under attack. Requesting immediate assistance. We've lost power in multiple systems. Clear enemy. Retreat. Overload. The message cut off abruptly, leaving them in silence. What the hell? Ethan whispered, disconcerted. They were attacked and then they lost control. Mira finished, her expression darkening. It sounds like they were in a critical fight. Does that mean we're in danger? He asked, glancing at the doorway as if expecting an unseen threat to materialize. If the same force is still out there, then yes, we need to prepare ourselves, she said, her voice steady. But we need to gather more information before we act. Right? Let's check the rest of the logs, see if there are any clues. Ethan turned back to the console, but now his heart was pounding for a different reason. Together, they delved into the system, searching for any details that could shed light on the situation. As Ethan scrolled through the data, he turned to Mira. You know, this might actually be the most exciting day of my life. Day? I'd say it's been much longer than that, she replied, leaning closer, eyes flickering with determination. All right then. Most exciting week of my life. He flashed her a grin. And it all started with a crash landing. Not your typical vacation, I'd say, she shot back, though her smile was genuine. Their focus returned to the task at hand, but an unspoken bond began to weave itself into the space between them. They found more fragments of recordings, each revealing bits of a story lost in the chaos. Ethan turned to Mira, the tension of the unknown looming over them. If we manage to pinpoint the assailants, what do we do next? Mira paused, considering his question carefully. Ideally, we report back to my people, inform them about the threat. Sounds simple enough, he replied, but his voice carried an edge of uncertainty. And if they don't listen to us? Then we figure out how to defend ourselves. Myra's resolve remained firm. We'll have to convince them that we found more than just an old ship. But what if they see us as trouble? Ethan asked, frustration creeping back in. What if they turn on us? You and I have been through too much together to let that happen, Mira stated, a fierce glint in her eyes. We'll stand our ground. Together, right? Ethan affirmed, the bond strengthening between them. Together, she echoed, locking eyes with him. In that moment, the atmosphere shifted. Trust formed from necessity began to turn into something deeper, a realization that they were no longer just two individuals seeking to survive, they had become partners united in the face of adversity. With renewed determination, they scanned for any last bits of information. Around them, the remnants of the ship whispered stories of the past as Ethan and Mira stood prepared to write a new one together.